Good, Good afternoon, members of Parliament, support staff, visitors in the Public Tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, those viewing via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to this public meeting number 1 of today, Friday, September 15, 2023. We have established a quorum of 10 members. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received notice of absence from the following member, MP Solange Duncan. Are there any more notifications? Not received. Does any other member of Parliament have any notifications? And I see MP Angelique Rumou. MP Rumou, you have the floor.
A pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasant good afternoon to my colleague MPs, to the viewing and listening public. Pleasant good afternoon to one and all. Mr. Chairman, this afternoon I would just like to convey my deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of the late Ms. Viola Hull and to her daughters and her granddaughters on her sudden passing. She was a fellow Methodist, and the Methodist community is mourning right now, and we would like to wish the family all the best. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Angelique Rumou. The next person I see is 1.1, seat number 11. Oh, MP Heiliger, MP Grisha Heiliger Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my card wasn't inserted correctly. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to my fellow colleagues, and good afternoon to those listening and viewing online. Mr. Chairman, just an update from you directly, Mr. Chairman, regarding a meeting request that I submitted just a day before we went on recess regarding the taxi associations coming to TIAT committee meeting. I'd like a follow-up from you, Mr. Chairman, when we can have that meeting. The taxi associations would like to come to Parliament and have a little dialogue and an update on what's happening, especially now that it's slow season. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't think they're ready. It's just for you to give us a date. We have a non-meeting week next week, so I would like to know if it may be if possible for us to have the taxi association in week after next. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Grisha Heiliger Martin. Surely we will adjust the meeting with the Taxi Association and many others like those. The next person I have is MP George Pantherflat. MP George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the Chair, my colleagues in Parliament, those that are viewing and those that are listening. Mr. Chairman, I have 2 notifications that I believe that, it's of extreme importance. One of them being, Mr. Chairman, the issue of GEBE, where I believe it was about, I think, last week, where the persons who owed or who still have to pay GB, at first it was 50% reduction, basically in order to make the payment arrangements, and it was dropped, I think, to 25%. So, based on your outstanding, if you come up 25%, then you can make a arrangement for you to pay your GB outstanding bills. And Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a plea from here to the management or those of GB, if they can really take into consideration the individual's situation. Because I got a call from a business person, and they also, based on the fact of the hacking that took place and the issue of not receiving the proper bills, have found themselves in a dilemma and are asking if even a 10 or 15% can be paid instead of the 25% that is now required. So I'm asking this, I hope that they're listening, the management of GB, to look into this, because the fact is the process is not refusing to pay, but the fact of the matter is, based on their financial situation, they're asking for more leniency in order to pay less than the 25%. Also, Mr. Chairman, I got a call from an individual who, in this case, a mother of 3, who had called me prior to it being 25% and saying she went to GB with the 25%, and they refused it. At the time, it was 50%. But now that she went now, Mr. Chairman, to try to pay the 25%, they told her, no, it's not enough, she has to pay more. And they have already disconnected her the last, it should be about 4 or 5 days now, that she has no electricity and no water. And why I bring up this case, Mr. Chairman, is this. This particular mother is in a court case right now with her employer for the last 9 months, so she has no income, Mr. Chairman. So as I'm saying, you have to take the situation of the individual into consideration. A mother of 3 in a court case with her employer for the last 9 months and came with at least a little deposit to make on outstanding bills, who was paying the bills all the time, but because of this situation, income has dropped. And now they're saying, no, you have to come up with the 25%, which she doesn't have. So I'm calling on GB to please take into consideration her situation and allow her to pay whatever she has in order to have them put back her light, her electricity, and also her water. Thank you. Oh, one more thing, Mr. Chairman. This also is concerning GEBE. I was in discussion with a GB employee, and honestly, Mr. Chairman, I know, and I've experienced myself, that there are times you go to the GBU, you get some cashiers that can be a little harsh sometimes, but at the same time, though, Mr. Chairman, you have persons or customers who go there, and they themselves are very, very harsh, and I mean, the words that come out of their mouth, Mr. Chairman, I can't repeat them on the floor of Parliament. And what this particular cashier have asked me to say it on the floor of the Parliament, as I'm doing it right now, they have asked the GB management if we can get some kind of psychiatrist so they can go to in order for them to ease themselves of the pressure that they're going through. They said they want me to say it, Mr. Chairman, so I'm saying it now. They said they asked the management to please get a psychiatrist so we can go, because the stress that we are feeling right now is affecting us. So, Mr. Chairman, I just had to bring this across, and I hope that they're listening and this issue is addressed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP George Pantherflood. The next person is MP Ludmila De Wever.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I usually don't often take a chance for notifications, but today I think I need to do one for sure. And it has to do with what I do on this floor of Parliament. When I come here and I speak on behalf of the people. When people message me and they ask me to question things, I will do that because that is how I am here. That is my position here. So I don't have a cocaine problem. I just pay all my bills. I don't have a drinking problem. I represent the people. When people call me, when people message me, I also have a local phone number that people can reach me on. So when people are going to call me and tell me that what I say on the floor of Parliament is libelous, what I say to that then is prosecute me. Because I don't lie. Since December, I also said I don't thief and I don't lie. I don't owe nobody nothing up in a tower, and I don't owe nobody nothing down on a beach. I'm here to represent the people of this country, and I will continue to do so. So when you're talking about bullying, what's bullying is when you have a current employee of the Ministry of Rami, of the Minister of Rami, calling people, threatening people, because they're complaining and objecting to things being done against permits. That's what's bullying. When you're talking about libelous, perhaps the government should spend their time fixing the problems of GB, that way other MPs wouldn't have to come up here and ask for stuff to be done. That's libelous. But I am here, always talking truth, and always will be representing the people of this country. And if what comes out of my mouth is a lie, by all means prosecute me, because my house ain't gonna get such, that's for sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP Ludmila De Wever. The next person is MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to our Secretary General, my colleagues, and a good afternoon to all tuned in to this meeting of Parliament. Mr. Chairman, many of us sat in here and listened to the government's presentation through His Excellency, the Governor, of the government's plans for the coming parliamentary year. As I've stated, if one did not know better, one would think that that was the presentation at the start of a government's term. So, this government of contradictions presented several items and issues that I believe warrant a discussion in Parliament on the presentation of the government plans. To understand from the government how quickly can, for example, the following issues, or how quickly will the following issues be dealt with. Our unemployment fund. 3.5 and more years into the term, we're still hearing the unemployment fund is to come. This government, our government, is planning to register at the OECD, according to the presentation made. Another item needing, in my opinion, our discussion. They're going to strategically leverage the orange, green, and blue economy. Now, I'm very happy that the government jumped on this train. And the terminology, we don't have the rights to it, so anybody can say, now we are going to deal with the blue, the green, and the orange economy. But when you say so, you're going to have to say how. Because again, the actions of the government contradict any indication of working on these areas. Mr. Chairman, while the government is here telling us all the things that they're going to do, several things are happening in the region in which this government should have been participating as a small island developing state. But no, our government is happy to go to the United Nations General Assembly along with the other prime minister, and while the missionary/caretaker Prime Minister Mark Rutte is the one who is going to represent the kingdom, our prime ministers can go to side events to talk in those settings. What the government of St. Maarten should do is step over to the organizations of countries and islands like we are, and stop pretending that they are on an equal footing with the country, the Netherlands. So they're going to UN, and we heard a lot about it when the Prime Minister and other ministers was here. The latest buzzword is now the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the National Development Vision, signed in 2012, has now become the clarion call of this government. While talking about the SDGs, this government does everything opposite to promoting the first SDG, the alleviation of poverty. Today as we speak, the pension indexation has not gone into effect. Today as we speak, the social aid adjustment that need to take place on the basis of the minimum wage adjustment has not happened. Today as we speak, the marketplace that needed to be built since last year and was taken out of our budget, the vendors are still waiting for it to happen. When is it going to happen? In full season? And then we're going to ask primarily the ladies sitting over there to stay home for a while and still have to pay the vendor's fee for that area is my question. In the environment, we're still waiting to see the plastic bag ban instituted. No, what are we told? Prime Minister says the Minister of TIAT will dictate the next steps, and the Minister of TIAT says, I'm going to come with a next law, and we're going to ban the import. So, Mr. Chairman, This government of contradictions, based on the presentation by the governor, I suggest, and I will put it in writing, that that presentation be up for debate in the Parliament of St. Maarten. And I thank you.
Thank you, MP Sarah Westcott-Williams. The next person is MP Christopher Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to my honorable colleagues and the people of St. Maarten listening by whichever means. Mr. Chairman, my notification is a bit different than regular. I think my colleagues have done well to point out the inconsistencies of this government. However, I've taken notice of a huge humanitarian crisis happening within the region, happening right under our eyes and our nose, and I think that we pay less attention to it because it's a black nation or a black country. Mr. Chairman, there is a serious, I can put it probably as a coming of a civil war in the country of Haiti. Mr. Chairman, we have a number of Haitian nationals in this country, and no one seems to be paying attention to what is happening in that country. There was a massacre over the weekend or a few days ago in that country, Mr. Chairman. We have seen the Dutch government spend over $2.5 billion with Ukraine, 2.5 billion euros on Ukraine. We have seen the United States send heavy artillery, weaponry, all sorts of ammunition to Ukraine, Mr. Chairman. I am asking this government to speak to her regional partners. I'm asking this government to speak to her colleagues. I'm asking this government, as my colleague M.B. Westcott-Williams said, talk to the demissionaire Prime Minister Rutte. Talk to them and ask them, what is your plans? How do you see what is happening in Haiti? I can guarantee you it will be, we see nothing wrong there. Mr. Chairman, I am saying this because St. Maarten could possibly be a refugee haven for many of them fleeing the country. How will we be able to help? It is a serious crisis happening in the country and the island of Haiti, and we within this region is paying little and no attention to it, or what can be, Mr. Chairman, the consequences of it. So I'm saying to all of us to see what we can do, what can be done, to ask and call for a ceasefire amongst the gangs with the government. Mr. Chairman, it is serious. I thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Christopher Emmanuel. The next person I see is MP William Marlin. MP Marlin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A pleasant good afternoon to you, to colleagues in Parliament, viewers and listeners. Mr. Chairman, it's good to be back for a short while again. Mr. Chairman, I just want to address the issue of initiative laws that are tabled by members of Parliament. You see, we sense some agitation about the initiative law in reference to plastic bags ban. But when something does not suit the needs or the plans of the sitting government, it is oftentimes amended. Now, an initiative can be taken and can get support in Parliament, but at a given moment, it lands on the desk of government that has to execute. And then government says, you know what, instead of doing it this way, because we are facing problems here, there, and everywhere else, we're going to do it now this way. And now it seems to stumble on agitation. But interesting to note, Mr. Chairman, is the first initiative law tabled by the National Alliance in 2011, early 2011, to ban or to curb actually the misuse of the short-term labor contracts, what is often referred to as the 6 months contracts. Is it necessary? Yes. But the misuse of it was way back then, way before then, and continues even up till now. But why? Why? Because the then reigning DP and UP government found it necessary to amend, change, water it down to the point where it came to Parliament to vote. MP Hyacinth Richardson was one who objected vehemently against, because he said he doesn't even recognize the law anymore. What was the purpose of it? Basically to stop the abuse, to stem the abuse against the short-term labor contracts. Would that have alleviated poverty today? Yes, it would have alleviated it way back then. But those in their wisdom thought, you know what? This is against the interest of our business partners. So let's change it, let's amend it, let's water it down, let's change it, and let's change it. But the people who knows it are the people who feels it. Those who are still suffering under the yoke of the abuse of short-term labor contracts. Even in government, it seemed to have become something to go after, give local people with a Dutch passport a contract, and then you hear they're on contract for a year, and then contract for another year, and then they're on contract for another year. And Mr. Chairman, these are things that we need to look after. And rather than the proverbial everyday pointing fingers at who did and who didn't, Mr. Chairman, Parliament should get to working where the people benefit. And the abuse of short-term labor contracts should come to an end. Not the use of short-term labor contracts, because it is at times necessary. But it's impossible that you can have a supermarket that is open 7 days a week, from morning until night, and every few days you go there to shop, there are new cashiers. You go to a hotel, and every few days there are new employees serving you at a restaurant. Or you go to check in at an airline, and every few weeks, or every few months, there are new people, or they are rotating people. You see them now, and you don't see them until a year after or 9 months after. These people can't get loans. These people can't buy a home. These people can't build a home because the system is against them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP William Marlin. I see MP Rolando Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you, to my colleague members of Parliament, the Secretary General, and those viewing this meeting. Mr. Chairman, you know, I can understand it's election time, and there needs to be some way to try to point out why something isn't going as good as it should, or why this government, or in particular the party that I represent, all of a sudden there's problems with the economy, the marketplace, indexation of pension. Mr. Chairman, these issues that are being solved today, the raising of the minimum wage has been done. That was the highest raise of the minimum wage that we've ever had. The indexation of the pension and making it something that can happen every year was something any other previous minister of VSA could have done. But this one got it done. The marketplace wasn't an issue last year or the year before. As a matter of fact, it was in January of 2018 that Minister Stuart Johnson of the United Democrats stated that within 6 months, the marketplace was going to be finished. But it wasn't done. The difference, Mr. Chairman, is that when we set our minds to working for the people, we actually do our best to get it done. The fact is the building permit of the marketplace has been approved. The budget for it has been approved. The people at the marketplace have been informed, and there's a provision to ensure they have a temporary location close by at no cost to be able to continue to work while the construction takes place. Actual progress, actual action. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to caution the public to understand that they are going to try between now and January as hard as possible to diminish the hard work that we have done. To be able to hear the governor confirm, not from his own voice, but from that of the IMF, the central bank, the statistics department, that this will be the best performing year we've had pre-COVID, and next year, the best performing economic year pre-IRMA. That doesn't happen just by sitting down and painting colors. This happens by actually promoting the destination, developing the economy, and giving investors confidence in a stable government so that they have a reason to invest. So that when you drive down Simpson Bay, you're seeing Hilton. And when you drive down to Don Beach, you're seeing Marriott. Brands that have never been in St. Maarten before. That is progress, and that's the result of hard work. And I will not stand here and allow anyone to diminish the accomplishments and work of what we have been able to achieve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I think we took long on the notifications. We have as agenda point for this public meeting, number 1, incoming documents. Number 2, voting draft national ordinance establishing the annual accounts of the country of St. Maarten for the financial year 2021. National ordinance on the adoption of the annual accounts 2021 under document IS/750/2022-2023 dated May 8th of 2023. Parliamentary year 2022-23-167. Agenda point 3 will be advice regarding the installation and composition of the permanent and ad hoc committees of Parliament. Number 4 will be advice regarding the installation and composition of the committees of the Latin America Parliament, that is Parlatino. We go over to the agenda point 1. All members have received the list of incoming documents and the proposals for further handling under IS/935 under IS/1019 of the parliamentary year 2022-23. Are there any comments or proposals on the list as presented? I see MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Sarah, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, once again. Mr. Chairman, on the list of incoming documents under the numbers 966, 967, and 968, which all regard advices from the Corporate Governance Council for appointments at the EDC and at the Princess Juliana International Airport, I would want to suggest that these be sent to the Committee of TIAT of Parliament. Please, thank you.
Thank you, MP Sarah Westcott Williams. Any other? Who should we send it to? Thank you, members of Parliament. Since there's no more speaking up on this, the list and the proposals will be handled for approval with the changes made by MP Sarah Westcott Williams. We go over to the agenda point 2, voting draft national ordinance establishing the annual accounts of the country of St. Maarten for the financial year 2021. National ordinance on the adoption of annual accounts 2021 under document IS/750/2022-2023 dated May 8th of 2023 under parliamentary year 2022-23-167. the draft national ordinance establishing the annual accounts of the country of Sint Maarten for the financial year 2021 was received on May 8, 2023 by Parliament. A Central Committee meeting was held on April 3, 2023, and subsequently a public meeting was held on August 16, 2023, during which this draft was handled accordingly to the legislative procedure. During the voting procedure, the outcome of the voting was 5 votes for and 5 votes against. As the vote result was considered a tie and thus inconclusive, the chairman announced that another meeting would be called for voting on this draft national ordinance. The agenda point was then closed. Hence today, this agenda point. According to the Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to the voting on the draft national ordinance establishing the annual accounts of the country of Sint Maarten for the financial year 2021 under national ordinance on the adoption of annual accounts of 2021 under document IS/750/2022-23 dated May 8, 2023. Under parliamentary year 2022-2023-167. We will vote on Article 1 till 4. Title, consideration, the draft in its entirety. Does any member request voting by roll call? If yes, we now go over to the voting. We start with the voting number. Any members of parliament would like to motivate their vote? The time is now. I see MP Sarah Westcott-Williams.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, very briefly, my argumentation for voting against this draft national ordinance regarding the annual account of 2021 of the country St. Maarten stand today, maybe even more so than at my initial vote. So, thank you.
Thank you, MP Sarah Westcott. MP George Pantaflet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when I look at where this government has reached in comparison to years gone by, 2012, Mr. Chairman, to 2021, financial accounts finally are being approved and taken care of. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, I must, Mr. Chairman, support this law. Thank you.
Thank you, MP George Pantaflet. The next person is MP William Marlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think a big thank you and congratulations to the Ministry of Finance and the entire support team that have worked tirelessly on these annual accounts. We can see another product of stability where governments have fallen and governments have changed and elections were held, and the focus of governments have not always been in the right place because they were there not long enough. The present Minister of Finance, Minister Artwell Irion, and his team has focused on something that had been neglected by several ministers or ministries over the years. And it is commendable that he has worked along with the team to bring us up to speed. And I hope that now, with the experience gathered and moving forward, that St. Maarten can remain up to date with their annual accounts and therefore their financial reporting. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Marlin. The next person I see, MP Angelique Rumu. MP Rumu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to motivate my vote in favor of this law and to also congratulate and commend the ministry and the minister, Mr. Artwell Irion, for a job well done. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Rumu. I don't see anyone else. MP Rayon Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A good afternoon to yourself, to the Griffier, to the Secretariat, and to my colleagues. Mr. Chairman, my vote hasn't changed in regards to this law. I'm hearing a lot of congratulations, but that just shows me that the report from the Algemene Rekenkamer was not read. And also, I would commend the Ministry of Finance for, being there for so long and therefore getting, to do the year report. But alas, I'm also not one of the ones who send them home in the past 5 years. So that'll be all for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Peterson. The next person is MP Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, indeed, when the financial statements come to the Parliament of Sint Maarten, it includes a report from the General Audit Chamber and advice from the Council of Advice together with the actual financial statements. All of the financial statements that have been handled by this Parliament include the same report. And in every single one of those General Audit Chamber findings, the same finding that was read the last time as a reason for why they're not voting on this one is the same exact statement that shows up every time. Yet, in previous financial statements, if I'm not mistaken, if they were not passed unanimously, they were passed by a very broad majority, including some of those that voted for it last time. So if we're going to talk about what changed, the only thing changed is maybe the political climate, but not the content of the General Audit Chamber's report. As a matter of fact, if you're going to use the 2021 General Audit Chamber report as a sort of measuring stick to the previous financial statements, what they found is improvement in the process. So, Mr. Chairman, I can understand maybe at the time, there was a little numbers game played, and I have to say, the leader of the PFP, she stepped up and said, hold on, guys, I didn't think I'm going to let this go down like this. So I have to commend her for that. Good political move. Keep the government in check, but don't plunge the government into a sort of legislative crisis, or the parliament rather. Very good move. But the rest that wanted to just use an excuse about the General Audit Chamber is utter nonsense, because the same statement was there the years before and you voted for. Now all of a sudden you're voting against. So, Mr. Chairman, I vote the same way I voted for all of the financial statements, for.
Thank you, MP Bryson. We now go over to the voting. We start with the voting number 6.
MP Melissa Gums.
For.
MP Grisha Heiliger Martin.
Against.
MP William Marlin.
For.
MP George Pantoflet.
For.
MP Rayon Peterson.
Against.
MP Hyacinth Richardson.
For.
MP Angelique Ramu.
For.
MP Ludmila De Weaver.
Against.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Akeem Arundel.
For.
MP Rolando Bryson.
For.
MP Chanel Brownbill.
For.
MP Christophe Emmanuel.
Against.
Chairman of Parliament Siddharth Bishlani.
For. The draft has been accepted with 9 for and 5 against. According to Article 88, subsection 1 of the Constitution of St. Maarten, Parliament shall notify the government that Parliament has approved this draft law in its public meeting of today, Friday, September 15, 2023. We go over to the agenda point 3. Advice regarding the installation and composition of the permanent and ad hoc committees of Parliament. In accordance with the Article 21, paragraph 3 of the Rules of Order, at the beginning of each parliamentary year, as well as in the first public meeting after a periodic resignation or after the dissolution of Parliament, the President assigns the members of the permanent committees for the investigation of certain subjects and to committee for petition unless Parliament decides otherwise. By letter of August 8, 2023, under UV/221/22-23, faction leaders were requested to submit the desired composition of the permanent and ad hoc committee of Parliament for their faction to the Secretary General of Parliament. The composition received were handled during Central Committee meeting of Parliament under CC1, held on Wednesday, September 13, 2023. The Central Committee has decided to nominate the following members for appointment to the permanent and ad hoc committees of the Parliament of Sint Maarten based on the proposals from the various factions. There is a total of 16 permanent and ad hoc committees of the Parliament of Sint Maarten. Committee of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Committee of Justice, Committee of Finance, Committee of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, Committee of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports Affairs, Committee of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Committee of Kingdom Affairs and Interparliamentary Relations, Committee for Petitions, Committee of Countries Expenditure, Committee of General Affairs, Committee of Parlatino Matters, Ad hoc Committee for the Preparation of the Construction of New Building for Parliament, Ad hoc Committee of New Parliament Building, Ad hoc Committee Integrity, Ad hoc Committee Electoral Reform, Committee for District Council, Committee for Constitutional Affairs and Decolonization. The Central Committee proposes that in connection with work visits, the rules and regulations relating to work visits as found in the document Guidelines for Travel Members of Parliament and adopted by Parliament on June 8, 2015 are observed. Furthermore, the Central Committee suggests that for the work visits related to national holidays of the other islands of the former Netherlands Antilles, a maximum of 4 delegates, one from each faction, participate in accordance with the rotation schedule. The Central Committee requests for the public meeting to approve this proposal. All members have received a copy of the advice sent by the Central Committee to the public meeting. The allotted speaking time is 20 minutes in the first round and 10 minutes in the second round. According to the speakers list, I give the floor to no. If there are no need, there's no need for second round, the first round. So we go over to the second round? No. According to this, nothing. Thank you, members of Parliament. We have come to the end of the deliberations on this advice, and according to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to voting. Does any member request voting by roll call? No. If not, the advice is accepted unanimously as proposed by the Central Committee. Copy paste for 4. We go over to the agenda point 4. Advice regarding the installation and composition of the permanent and of committees of Latin American Parliament, Parlatino, by letter of August 8, 2023, under UV/221-22-23, faction leaders were requested to submit the desired composition of the committees of Parlatino for their faction to the Secretary General of Parliament. The composition received were handled during Central Committee meeting of Parliament in the meeting CC1 held on Wednesday, September 13, 2023. The Central Committee has decided to nominate the following members for appointment to the committees of the Latin American Parliament, that is Parlatino, based on the proposals from the various factions. There is a total of 13 Parlatino committees. The Central Committee proposes that in connection with work visits, the rules and regulations relating to work visits as found in the document Guidelines for Travel Members of Parliament and adopted by Parliament on June 8, 2015 are observed. Furthermore, the Presidium suggests that for all committees of Parlatino that consists of 3 or more members, every time 2 members travel in accordance with the rotation schedule, for example, member 1 and member 2, member 3 and member 4, member 5 and member 6, etc., in order to participate in the meetings. The Central Committee requests the public meeting of Parliament to approve this proposal. The allotted speaking time is 20 minutes in the first round, 10 minutes in the second round. According to the speakers list, oh, okay, we have someone. We have MP Rolando Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, I think being that we're handling the Parlatino committees, we know that there are some factions that have chosen not to participate in Parlatino. But more recently, one of their candidates has had the opportunity to experience Parlatino for herself several times. And now maybe she's able to highlight the importance and the benefits of being a member of the Parlatino and the value of being in those meetings. So, Mr. Chairman, I think there's still opportunity in the public meeting that if they want to add their names, there's still that opportunity. But hopefully we will see, because I know some of them inside are dying to go, but have unfortunately decided not to. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy for those of us that understand the benefits of it. We had a great General Assembly where we handled some very important issues prudent to Sint Maarten in the region, and I look forward to us continuing to do so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Is there anyone else? No? There's no more speakers, so there's a second round. MP Bryson, you want to use the second round? No need. Thank you, members of Parliament. We have come to the end of the deliberation on this advice, and according to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to the voting. Does any member request voting by roll call? Roll call. All right. We now go over to the voting. We now go over to the voting, and now we start with motivation. If anybody wants to motivate. Oh, you have, okay. MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
I'm just kidding, Mr. Chairman.
You don't want?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you. Nobody wants to motivate, so let's start with number 14.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Aki Marindel.
For.
MP Rolando Bryson.
For.
MP Chanel Brownbill.
For.
MP Christophe Emmanuel.
For.
MP Melissa Gums.
Against.
MP Grisha Heiliger Martin.
For.
MP William Marlin. MP George Pontiflet.
For.
MP Rayon Peterson.
Against.
MP Hyacinth Richardson. MP Angelique Rameau.
For.
MP Ludmila De Weaver.
For.
Chairman Siddharth Vijlani.
For.
The same two. They got a million miles card now, so they good.
The advice has been accepted with 10 for and 2 against. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting. I thank you all for your participation, and I hereby close this public meeting.